coming out now.
There are a lot of games, yeah. I was looking at a list. I don't think there's anything huge for me. There's a lot of little things, but I think the next huge thing is in April. I really wanted to play Expedition 33 a lot. I need to see that thing.
Yeah, I saw the previews come out. People seem very excited about that. I have a whole bunch of stuff this month though.
Oh yeah? What's going on Oh my god. Hold on a second. I just got to mute that. What's coming on this month?
I'm excited for 33 Immortals. I'm excited for Assassin's Creed. I'm excited for First Berserker. Obviously, Split Fiction came out today.
Yep.
So that's just off the top of the head right there.
Yeah, Split Fiction is one I want to play this weekend, so I'm excited to play that. We'll talk about that a little bit later here. I've been sick as hell, so I've been kind of just not gaming. Today's the first day that like I can talk without coughing every little bit. Yesterday was okay as well, but
any idea what you caught?
Yeah, just a standard cold. Somebody at work brought it in, and a bunch of people have been out for like 2-3 days here and there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Just nothing special, but never fun. Never fun being sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Remind me, I think you're waiting to binge it. Are you watching Severance?
No, I'm waiting to binge it.
At this point, and I haven't watched today's episode, but after last week's episode, I'm willing to say that season 2 of Severance is so good that by comparison, the first season is now bad.
Interesting. I'm going to have to see what makes you say that one day
and let me remind you, season 1 was my favorite show of that year.
Yeah.
That's just how good season 2 is.
This is just spoilers for the TVP Schmody 2025 show.
I guess so.
Whatever.
Like I don't it's insane.
Like what could beat it at this point?
Andor season 2 comes out this month or next month.
Okay.
Very excited about that.
Yeah.
I also really enjoyed the first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I saw that.
There's some good TV happening right now.
I saw that you were watching that.
Yep.
Nice.
Some good stuff for sure. And then what am I seeing this weekend? I'm gonna go see Mickey 17.
Mickey said, I don't think I even know what this is.
It's the new Robert Pattinson is the star of it, and it's by the director of Parasite and Snowpiercer, which I'm blanking on his name at the moment. So I'm looking forward to that. It's getting really good reviews, so that's what I'm seeing this weekend.
Okay, nice, awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Anything going on with you?
No, the sickness kind of took me out for my weekend, basically. So I played less than I wanted to of a game we'll talk about in a second here, but otherwise, I'm feeling better now, so ready to chat.
Yes, the director's name is Bong Joon-ho. Thank you, or Joon-ho. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about some video games. This is the Top Down Perspective, March 6th. I'm Sean Booker.
I'm Paul Fleck.
I'm going to start with my game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Split Fiction. This is the game I could not talk about last week. The game that I was playing. I'm actually still not done it. This game is longer than I expected it to be. I've probably put somewhere between 10 and 12 hours in it. I think I'm very close to the end, but I also did say that like an hour ago.
Okay.
And they kind of just kept going, so I'm not 100% sure exactly how much more there is. I will say, like, I got the achievement for doing all the side stories, so I assumed, okay, I must be near the end. There's no more of these side stories, but then, like I said, another hour or 2 went by, and here we are.
Are you playing with someone?
I mean, you have to.
Who are you playing with?
There is no choice.
Who are you playing with?
I'm playing with my usual co-op friend who I play everything co-op with. But yeah, no, you're either playing with somebody or you're not playing that game. Those are your 2 options.
It still does the friend pass thing or whatever, where you like send them.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And you buy 1 copy, you get 2 basically, and This time around, it works cross-platform, that friend pass.
That's awesome. That's really
That's
cool.
all. Yeah, that's the future, right?
Yeah,
That's literally the future. So it doesn't get much better than that.
that's great.
Um, it is crazy to me because they did, they did the friend pass for It Takes Two. That game still sold like a ton, even though they were basically giving out like every second copy for free. They still sold, like, I remember hearing like it was at 5 million units or something already. Like,
Holy crap. That's
yeah, that
insane.
game sold crazy. Yeah. But yeah, so the reviews went up a couple days ago. It's out today, so I can finally talk about it. I think this is Hazelight's best game.
Okay. Yeah, that tracks. That trailer looks incredible for it and what they showed of it.
This is
So
so good. Up until this point, I probably would have said, um, It Takes Two
yeah,
was
makes
was
sense.
probably my favorite. Um,
Getting better each
but
time,
this one,
basically.
I think they're getting better each time. I also think, and I don't know these numbers off the top of my head. I think they've raised the price of their games by $10 each time.
Oh,
Is that the case?
okay.
Like, so this is $50. We're going American prices because that's kind of the only dollar value that matters, really. Um, I think It Takes Two was 40 when it launched. And then I
Hmm.
would have guessed No Way Out was 30. And someone in the chat says It Takes Two was over 20 million sold. So I'm off by an order of magnitude there.
Wow.
Um,
That's crazy. Cool.
and I think Brothers was like $20 because that would have been pretty early on in kind of the like smaller game scope. Again, I don't have those numbers. I could be kind of pulling that out of my ass, but yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I don't have the numbers either
Anyway,
here. They
yeah. Anyway, the important part. I think it's better than It Takes Two because It Takes Two, when you were playing that, each player was kind of the same character, like ability wise.
Mhm.
And there was obviously like set pieces where it's like, okay, you need to do this part, you need to do this part, or we are going to separate you for a bit, and you are going to do distinct things. But in terms of like ability wise, um, they were basically the same character, interchangeable. In Split Fiction, each character has unique abilities that only they can do, and then the game changes that pretty frequently. And that's the other
Mm,
thing I really like about Split Fiction is the variety of gameplay is pretty incredible.
that's
Like at
cool.
one point, it's like an action platformer. Another point, it's like Metroid, like ball. There's a pinball level. There's a bullet hell level. Like, I don't want to spoil too much, but they just change things up so much, and so many times I was like audibly saying like, this just feels great and is really fun. Like, it feels like that when they were designing these, they were like, what would be like, what would make this fun? What can we do to like sand down the rough parts just to make this more fun? And I think they did like a really, really good job with that. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but it goes to some pretty crazy places. I also think it is easier than It Takes Two. We were talking about this briefly earlier today.
Yes.
I found It Takes Two. It was it's a game that made you want to like get your partner involved. Maybe they're not a gamer,
Exactly.
but It Takes Two demanded you need to kind of be at least like a baby gamer to play this,
Yeah,
or you're
you need
going
a
to
certain
struggle.
level of like competency.
Right. You need some kind of like video game vocabulary. This isn't just for like anyone.
Yes. Right.
Which I found made it difficult. I think
Yep.
Split Fiction has an easier on ramp.
Mhm.
It's a lot more forgiven. It's a lot more like fixed camera angles for a lot of sections. With that said, though, it does get challenging at times. Your co-op partner will need to know how to use two analog sticks at the same time
Right.
eventually. And there were definitely some like boss fights in there where I was like, I could see this part getting frustrating if you were playing with like a normie
Right.
who can't play video games.
Sure.
But I do not think it is as harsh as It Takes Two. So I do think that this one is much friendlier in that regard. Uh,
Cool. That's
yeah,
good.
it's it's really great. Like, at this point, I think the Hazelight Studio, I think Joseph Ferris are pretty much like, well, I think we have a family game of the year from the Game
Mhm.
Awards in the bag. As long as Nintendo doesn't like come out with a Mario game, like it's ours.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Um. Yeah. So you just picked it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just got home basically too, so
Right.
I haven't done
Yep.
anything yet.
Yeah,
So
so
I'm
that's your
excited.
weekend plans, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you're really gonna like it.
nice.
I'll say that some of the writing's not great, but the
Yeah,
gameplay more than makes up for it. Also, like almost at all times, like the main characters, you get a double jump and an air dash.
hell yeah. That's all you
There you
need.
go.
Yeah,
That's like there you go.
yep. That's all you need.
Yeah, no,
EDP
it
Game of
is
the
it
Year
is really
quality.
that's those are two great things. You get that
Yep.
right off the bat. Like it's yeah, it feels good, it looks good, and it plays really good. And yeah, it is really cool. I just had so much fun with it. I am looking forward to when you've kind of seen the surprises and stuff. Us kind of talking about
More in depth.
uh, more just yeah, and I don't even know if we'll do it like on a podcast because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. And I don't really think it like warrants like a spoiler cast, but I would just be curious to talk to you kind of about some of the levels in there because they're pretty unique and they're pretty silly and stuff.
That's one of the things that
Um,
made me excited about it is them showing the trailer and just being like, "Oh, with this like premise or whatever, they can literally do whatever the hell they want." That's awesome.
yeah, and they do
Yeah.
like it'll just like warp you into an entire kind of like new dimension that has new rules, new physics. Like it's a completely different game, and they do that over and over and over again for at least 10 to 12 hours so far, and it's really enjoyable.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm playing that. Also, I'm gonna like quickly let's talk about your game because I want to look up an embargo real quick, but let's talk about Monster Hunter Wilds.
Okay, sure. Since we last talked, Monster Hunter Wilds came out a couple hours after our last podcast, and I got sick about 24 hours after our last podcast. So before it really set in, I did about 15 hours in the 2 day span there, and kind of put it down for the rest of the time. Otherwise, that game is basically everything mechanically that I would want in a Monster Hunter game. It's basically Monster Hunter World with some good ideas taken from Rise, especially with the dog mechanic. Essentially, in this, it's a sacred. It's like a almost like an emu or something, more bird-like, but it's a mount that you can store another weapon on during your hunt. You have kind of your supply pouch is
Are we talking
also
about the secrets, whatever
the
you
sacred.
pronounce it?
Yeah,
Sacred. Okay.
yeah. Your supply pouch is on there, so instead of going to a chest for free supplies or whatever every mission, it just is delivered to you there. You can sharpen and do everything while moving. Yeah, all of that stuff is great. The new mechanic of being able to wound a monster by kind of focusing your attacks and aiming at an area until you create a wound and then exploiting that wound for massive damage and like being able to take the monsters down make this probably the easiest Monster Hunter to get into from like a casual standpoint and also maybe the coolest as well. There's like so many times where fighting a monster or whatever and just stacking up all these wounds all over it and then just like one by one systematically like ripping this thing apart essentially until it dies and you're like holy shit, that's incredible. It also leads to some cool mechanics like specifically with the great sword. The great sword for a long time was pretty hard to use because you get stuck in this long animation of you lifting this thing and slamming it down, and it takes like maybe 5 to 10 seconds depending on what you're doing, of like real time of you just stuck in one place while monsters like writhing around. With first of all of that stuff is faster in this. But with the ability to focus your attacks, you can actually like aim your attack while you're in mid swing. So like you don't miss with like your big attacks anymore, making the great sword just like crazy powerful. Yeah, I don't know. It's really, really cool. Everything about this game so far is like exactly what I want. Except every
Nice.
time they have this stupid thing where in the story mode, you can skip cutscenes now and you can skip all that if you want to, which is great. But what they added now is walk and talks is what one of my buddies is calling it, where there's literally just like after a monster or whatever, you do a cutscene, you go on to the next mission, and it
Put your
starts
hand
with
up to
you.
your ear. Yeah, I played Gears of War.
It's literally that. Yeah, where you are just walking and talking to people, and you can't go faster, you can't go slower, you're just kind of waiting for it to be done. Like, they just made an unskippable cutscene. And it's infuriating. I don't know why they would do this. And they put it in between, like, every major hunt. It's not just, like, once or twice where you go
Probably
into a new area.
probably hiding loads. That's what it was in Gears of War.
It could be. Yeah. I'm not sure
Gotta
what it is,
gotta put
but
those
it's annoying.
loading times somewhere.
I mean, you could just do it at the beginning. So what you do is you go like accept assignment, it loads into that. Like just make that load a little bit longer or something. It's weird. Or sometimes it goes into a cutscene, which would also be hiding a load potentially. Who knows?
I don't know. Maybe it needs more time. I don't know.
It's just a bad idea and it feels bad. So that it's like almost perfect, but every time one of those comes up, I'm just like, well, come on. What are you doing? We were having fun.
Okay.
We were having a good time. Um yeah, that game is incredible. I think everybody should try it if you can. It's a little bit hard to say like you should spend like 90 $100 or whatever wherever you are to like try it and see if you like it, but if you have the ability to play it, and you want to play a Monster Hunter game, try it out. It's the easiest one to get into, I would say. It does have the
What makes you
caveat
say that? Why is this the easiest one to get into?
because of everything I literally just said.
Okay. Fine.
Specifically, it's just faster moving, lots of quality of life stuff. But it does have the caveat of you'll get used to that stuff and you won't be able to play any of the other ones. But if this is kind of the one that you're jumping in on, like you probably don't care, honestly, at this point, right? Like you wouldn't want to go back to
Yeah.
one without all the cool stuff, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No. Play the best one.
yeah. Honestly, yeah, it's great. People talked highly of Monster Hunter World back years ago. This is definitely eating that lunch of just like it's just a better version of that in every single way. And if you like Monster Hunter games, I
Nice.
highly recommend it.
Okay.
hmm
That's all you played this week, right?
That's it. Yeah. What
Okay.
what's the embargo? Is the embargo good or
Yeah.
no?
So I double
Okay.
checked the embargo. I'm allowed to say I am playing Assassin's Creed Shadows. I am
Okay.
also allowed to talk about the platform that I'm playing it on, and I think that
Okay.
was actually one of the like the really interesting parts that
Oh.
I was looking forward to getting to talk about.
Uh-huh.
So they didn't have code um until or like they didn't have console code until today. But
Okay.
they were reaching out about like if I had interest in code like last week,
Mhm.
and I was like, yes, can I get an Xbox code? And they said, sure, we won't have that until later next week. But what we can do is we can hook you up with a GeForce Now copy of it. And then when the Xbox code is available, it has cross progression and you can just transfer your save onto the Xbox.
Okay. Sure.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's really cool. I like
So
that they
for the
can use
last
GeForce
week,
Now for this sort of thing too. That's awesome.
yeah, and you know what else can use GeForce Now? My Steam Deck.
True. Yep.
I've been playing Assassin's Creed Shadow on my Steam Deck all week,
Mhm.
and after I watch the new Severance,
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up my progress on the Xbox version in the living room.
Nice.
So cool. I've never had that before. It's so cool. Just another example of like
Technology, man.
Friend Pass works cross platform. That like we're living in the future. This is awesome.
Yeah, companies are finally starting to get it a little bit. It's great.
And as much as I would love to be able to say like this is a great way for people to do it. I understand no one will do this because that would require owning Assassin's Creed Shadows on two different platforms, something nobody should do.
Right. Sure. Right.
So it's this weird like, hey, if you're like really privileged, there's this cool thing you can do. Or maybe the thing is just get I guess it would be the Ubisoft or like the PC version, I guess, and then you can also
Yeah.
play it on
And
your
then just
Steam
play it
Deck
on whatever.
if you
Yep.
if GeForce Now if you want.
Mhm.
Um, but honestly, like, I haven't been playing it like tethered to my phone outside. I've been playing it like in my bedroom at home on local Wi-Fi. But it
Yeah.
runs like I'm playing it locally on the deck, and it yeah runs
Yeah,
really
that's
nicely.
awesome.
So that's pretty much all I can really say about the game at this point until I'm allowed to say when I can talk about the full game. I think it's March 18th, so that'll be a few weeks
Okay.
away.
Sure.
But I was allowed to say that I'm playing it, and I'm allowed to say the platform. And I just thought that was a really cool platform experience.
Yeah, that's neat.
Um, the last game I want to talk about, and actually I wanted to talk about this last week. I totally forgot to write it down.
Mm.
But and 2 weeks ago I had mentioned a book. I'll come back when I finish it. So I finished what is currently available and out of Lost Records, Bloom and Rage.
Yeah.
Wow, that is such a disappointing game.
Oh, Oh
Like it
no.
is it is kind of bewildering what happens in this first episode. Again, there's 2 episodes. If people don't remember, I'll do a quick catch up now. Lost Records is the latest teen coming of age story from Don't Nod, who did the first 2 Life is Stranges. They're doing what seems kind of like a spiritual successor to Life is Strange called Lost Records. It comes out in 2 parts. The first one came out in February. The second one comes out in April. This thing, if you do everything, which I did everything, and that's mostly just like kind of collectibles. I did like everything I could basically. I probably put 6 to 8 hours into it. The like mystery of it, like the weird like supernatural element,
Hmm.
doesn't get hinted until like I don't know, maybe halfway through it. It gets kind of hinted.
Hmm.
Then they ignore it for another like 2 hours.
Until the
Then
end.
they come back to it, and then they don't tell you enough to get you excited.
Oh,
Like this has some of the worst pacing I've ever seen.
so they don't even like really hook you at the end with a thing.
Like, I mean, at the very tail end, there's like something that kind of happens with the
Mm,
characters, but it's not even like the supernatural element of it. Like,
mm,
I'm gonna speak in broad strokes, but I'm
of
gonna get a
course.
little more specific. So the framing of it is you are um kind of you're like your late 30s, early 40s woman. There's a group of you. You guys are kind of coming back together after 20 years or something like that. And it's a lot of flashbacks of when you guys were teens and you met and some stuff happened. And it probably takes like 3 to 4 hours before anything like kind of spooky or mysterious happens in the flashbacks,
Mm,
which is a while. So it spends
that's
a
a
lot of
long
time just
time.
kind of setting up these characters.
Yeah.
And then in the modern day, one of the characters is like, "Hey, look, somebody sent me this package." It's like, "Holy shit." And it's like it's got the band's name on it. The girls had a band together, and it's like,
Hmm.
"How would anyone know that?" But also there's this narrative element where it seems like these women have forgot a lot of what happened, whatever this event was. They
Hmm.
forgot a lot about it. So during these flashbacks, they're kind of like remembering it. So there's this question of like what caused them to forget. Something took this like memory from them.
Yeah.
Um so they're kind of like working through it. Anyways, it, so for half the game this package is there. Nobody they don't open it. Like, you keep coming back to the modern day and nobody opens up this mystery box. Like, there's literally, like, we could have an answer to something right now, and they're like, "No, no, no, no. You need to play part 2." It's like, "This thing has been in front of me for 4 hours. Why is nobody opening the box?"
Yeah, sure.
Like, it is crazy. And then in the flashbacks, something kind of mysterious happens. There's this whole element of, like, using your camera and stuff,
Hmm.
and at one point, about halfway through it, they find some footage on the camera where they were like, "Holy shit, I don't remember recording that last night," and it's kinda spooky. And then they don't talk about anything related to that again for like 3 hours. And it's like, what are you doing? What? Like, you know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of in Lost, how it's like if everyone just chilled out
Yeah.
and like talked to each other about all the information they have right now,
Everything would be fine.
like
Yep.
twice as many people would be alive right now.
Totally. Yep.
But everyone's just kind of not talking to each other and just running around as fast as they can and kind of yelling.
Yep.
And it's leading to a lot of shit going down.
Yep.
And
True.
it kind of reminded me of that, but it's just like they start hinting like I don't understand. The only thing that kind of makes sense to me is like, okay, we have this story, and it's like we have 2 hours of actual story. We need it to be
Oh.
16. And I can't speak for what part 2 will be. Maybe there's going to be a bunch of crazy stuff. Maybe the pacing's going to be awesome. But in terms of like if I just take what I know from part 1 and I just kind of double it, it's you had 2 hours of story. You stretched it already to 8 hours.
Yeah.
And like and then so the other thing, and this is in the trailer, they find a big hole in the forest.
Yeah. That's kind of the
Okay.
thing, right? That you want to know
That's
about.
kind of the thing.
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you anything about that hole other than the hole exists. Much like the
Oh.
box. I can't tell you anything about the box other than it exists. They bring up all these questions, and then it seems like nobody's interested in actually asking questions or doing anything with them. It is
Oh.
so bizarre. it's the weirdest
That
pacing.
sounds frustrating as fuck.
It is
Yeah.
it just and so you're sitting there just being like, why is nobody why aren't anyone doing anything? Like what how is this game still going on? Like, no, don't do another flashback of them making like murals at the cabin. I don't like I get it. They're friends. I totally get it. You've nailed that point. These girls love each other. They love each other so much they're best friends.
Yeah.
You explained that 5 different ways at this point.
It's really a
And then
shame
there's
too,
this
because
other
you think about Life is Strange, and like there was a bunch of episodes. They were 2 to 3 hours long, depending on how long you looked around or whatever. But there was like always something hooking you in every time, every episode.
Yeah, and you know, the nice thing about n episodic structure of that one is they kind of were like, "Hey, we need to kinda end on a bit of a cliffhanger here, like, something
Yeah,
kinda needs to happen." This one, like, they do end on a cliffhanger, but because it's, like, 2 chunks, they felt like it's okay if we don't have anything go on for 60% of this 6-hour
that's
chunk.
awful. That's awful.
Like, they thought we're like, "Hey, we can just kinda chill out," and it's like, "No, you kind of can't."
Yeah,
Like I love coming of age stories. I play so many of these, like,
yeah,
choice-based visual novel stuff. This was, like, the slowest one, which is
that's rough
crazy
too.
because I would have kind of put this team up
Mm,
there as, like, these are the guys.
yeah,
Like, they were kinda there at the beginning of a lot of this, like Life is Strange 1, it was like Walking Dead season 1, and then it was Life is Strange season 1, right? Those are, like, kind of the bar as far as I was concerned back in the
sure.
day.
Yeah,
So this is
sure.
this is definitely odd. And then the one last thing I kind of want to mention, and I talked about this briefly, is there's this video camera mechanic where you kind of are just like kind of basically works like a collectible. You'll kind of enter a scene, you can take out the camera and you can look around, and then if you see something kind of get outlined, it means, oh, this is like an object of interest. You should record 6 seconds of it, and it'll categorize it in like still life or these are bullies, these are Amy, this is Amy.
Sure.
And if you collect like 4 or 5 different angles or things that would be also being categorized, some of them are just like viewpoints, and so every now and then if you see like a viewpoint, it's like, oh, is this probably going to be part of it? You collect all 5 of them, then it kind of will put together like a little vignette video for you, and those are kind of interesting. You can kind of watch back at them and you'll get some like unique dialogue and stuff. I don't know, it just kind of basically is a collectible.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Weird thing about that though is it forces you every time you're doing something to take out the camera and walk around the whole scene, kind
Mm.
of searching for stuff while kind of anything's going on. So it brings back the old Batman problem of I played the whole mode in game in detective mode because I needed to see what was
Oh,
like interactable.
yeah,
But
sure.
what makes it kind of annoying now is when you're in the camera mode to see what is filmable, you can't see what is interactable. So you kind of need to walk every single area twice. And
Right.
because like if you think about like a Life is Strange or another one of these games, they put you in a building, they put you in a room. What you're gonna do is you're gonna try and figure out, okay, what does the game want me? Where does it want me to go? Before I do that, I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna click on everything that is interactable because I want to see the interactions. I want to see what the character will say, blah blah. So and you want to do that.
Yeah, of course.
Now you have to do it. Now you have to do it twice.
Yeah, that's a
Like
bad idea.
it's so confusing. I'm gonna play the second half because I kind of just need to know.
Of course, sure.
Like like
You're already
what they do
in.
with this
Why
landing.
not?
I'm already in. It sucks that I cannot recommend it. Um,
Yeah.
and honestly, like the collectible camera thing aside, I could have ignored that. You could also just knock over the collectibles. It doesn't matter.
Right.
That's an easy thing to avoid. The pacing though, I just cannot recommend. And that was like the big bummer of it. And what's annoying is you don't even realize that until you're probably like 4 hours into this thing. And at that point, like, are you gonna kind of stop? I mean, probably not. Maybe you'll just give. I don't know. It seems like a weird thing to do, especially because you just if you're playing this game, you bought or you're I guess you're subscribed to PlayStation Plus, but theoretically you own or have access to you know an additional 3 months of kind of content.
Yeah.
So are you gonna really stop? Yeah, it's a weird one. And a question: would the 2 good hours be worth looking up on YouTube? So I don't even know how you would kind of put that together. You would have to find some kind of let's play where the person who made the video cut out a bunch of the game.
Yeah.
because you can't just like skip all these things really. Like I guess theoretically, if you knew what you were doing and you were playing a second time to make this video, you could avoid a lot of these character interactions. But again, at the same time, that's kind of why you're here for this. The problem is though, even if you like kind of like speed run this game, it doesn't it doesn't answer any of these kind of questions. It like barely sets stuff up. Like it is such just like a watered down tease of what is to
Mm,
come. Like like again, you've seen the trailer. There's a big hole.
yeah.
I don't know any. I don't know what that hole does.
Yeah,
I
that's
can't. I
crazy.
literally can't tell you a thing about the hole. I can't tell you if it's actually weird or if it's just a hole. Like if you think of Life is Strange, she gets powers in the first episode. Like we know,
Yeah.
okay, she has some powers. I kind of know what those powers do. I don't know anything. I don't know what's in this box that has been in front of these women for 4 hours. Why does nobody want to open this box? Like that's the crux of this whole modern day setup is we need to get together because someone sent me this box and no one should have been able to do that.
That would drive me
And it's like
nuts.
why aren't we opening this box?
Yeah. Exactly.
What is happening right now?
Holy shit.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
Hmm. I wonder if this would have done better as just like a tighter like 4 episode thing of like 1 to 2 hours or something, like rather than this big one where there's just nothing but downtime.
I mean, it would have to be like kind of rewritten, right, to kind of
Yeah.
to trim a lot of the fat.
Yeah.
And I think if you had cut the length of the game in half, you could not charge what they're charging for it. And I bet that was a
Right.
big deal.
Yep. Agreed.
That's kind of like the pessimistic side of this to me is like, did
This
you
is a
guys pad
suit.
this out because you're charging? It's like 50 or 60 bucks, I can't remember, but it's like not like a cheap game. It's not like 30 or 20 or something like that.
This was a suit
Um,
decision. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, maybe
Probably.
I don't know. I don't know. So,
What a shame.
but unfortunately, the story is suffered with the pacing. Absolutely.
What a shame. Hmm.
But I guess I'll report back in April and kind of tie a bow on the whole thing and see what that's like.
Yeah, I still kind of want to hear like if the second part, man, I'm just thinking if you came back and said the second part is awesome. It's like 9, 10 out of 10, might be like game of the year material. Would I suffer through the first part to get to
Well,
that?
that's kind of an interesting like philosophical question of like if the second half is incredible,
Yeah,
does the like you're still looking at half this game is not.
exactly.
So does that bring down the game or you know what I mean? Like this is the age old question of like you know, I heard this in the past when like the Orange Box came out, and it's like, hey, if Portal is a 10 out of 10 game,
Yeah,
but you only find like one of the like, is the Orange Box 10 out of 10 by default then because it has Portal in it, or
right.
do you have to weigh every single thing? Like, if let's say you don't like Half-Life 2 Episode 2, does that bring it down, or is it just well, it has Portal, so it's the Orange Box is 10 out of 10? You know, it's this weird kind of philosophical question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, Hmm. I'm not sure.
Anyway,
We'll have
yeah,
to.
exactly.
I guess you'll find out and then
Yeah.
relay to me if it's worth wasting my first 16 hours in or whatever to get the good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, see, it's not 16 hours. It's at most like 8. But
8.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's do some news. Not a ton of stuff that big happened, but hey, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 finally got announced. It's no longer leaked. We've been talking about this thing for months,
Yeah.
but it is official. Coming July 11th. It is. We knew it was 3+4. We talked about this last week. It got rated in Singapore, but the announcement's actually out.
Yeah.
Um, Looks like it's Iron Galaxy is developing it, who they developed the PC port, or they ported it to PC of the last one because it used to be Vicarious Visions,
Hmm.
who turned into Blizzard Albany, who just kind of got absorbed into. I think they were working on Diablo or something.
Sure. Into the goo
Um,
somewhere.
Somewhere in there.
Hmm.
It's basically coming out to everything, including last gen, which is kind of interesting at this point.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Um, which is crazy because we're like 5 years out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, does this come to Switch too?
Uh,
Or here's a better
Probably.
question: is this a Switch 2 launch title? I
Uh,
guess it depends when Switch 2 comes out, right?
this and that. My time at Portia remaster, whatever the fuck that was leaked.
Well, that one was teased like an actual Switch one
Both of
two
those
title. This one
both of
hasn't
those
mentioned Switch
games.
2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
release titles.
It's also going to be day one on Game Pass. Hell yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a couple different versions out there. The digital deluxe one, you'll get to skate as the Doom Slayer skater.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
There's also the Revenant skater.
Hmm.
Um, if you pre-order it, you get wireframe Tony shader, so he looks like a 3D
Like a
model Rainbow
Blender
Man.
model that hasn't been fully rendered
Yeah,
yet. Yeah.
exactly. Um, and then there's like a collector's edition that comes with a skate deck if you want a skate deck.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool looking. I don't particularly want one, but
Yeah, I mean, I still have the skate deck that
yeah,
the
from
PR people for Skate, which is which is Skate 4, right? But it's just called Skate, I think.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
They gave me at either the first or second Summer Game Fest, I can't remember, but they were like, "Hey, do you want a skate deck?" And I was like, "Okay." And they're like, "Give us your email." And then that showed up. So I have that.
I thought you were gonna say though, like weird Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam thing or what, that stupid peripheral or whatever.
No, yeah, I don't actually own that. No, this is like a real skate deck.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
don't think I've ever played Tony Hawk Ride. Wasn't that the name of it?
Ride.
And
Yeah,
then
that's it.
and then there was a snowboard one. Was that like Shaun White's Shred or something? Or Tony Hawk Shred?
That sounds right. Something like that.
Something
Yeah.
like that. There was two that used the same board.
Yeah.
Um anyways, yeah, it's 3+4 in the kind of the same treatment. And then the one kind of question and clarification that Kotaku reached out to Activision about is that they're changing up Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4
Mm.
to make it more in line career-wise with 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
So from what I understand, because I actually haven't played 3 and 4, is 4 wasn't open world, but it was more kind of larger levels that did not have a timer, and you would kind of skate around up to like random kind of NPCs, and they would say, "Hey, you got 20 seconds to like collect skate."
Yeah, that's kind of where
They would have kind of these.
Underground and stuff started popularizing it more after that too. That's right.
Right after this, when I went to Underground, those were definitely kind of more open world. Those were like huge stages. You
Yes.
could do whatever you want. You could get off the board and stuff. But this was just kind of like micro challenges within a big thing. So that's not going to be the case for this remake. They're going to make 4 function like 1, 2, and 3. 2-minute timer, list of challenges, yada yada. So
Interesting. Okay.
I guess it kind of depends where you fall on how much you liked 4. Everyone that I kind of hear reporting on this seems like they didn't really like 4 all that much, so they seem totally fine. But I have to assume there's some 4 diehards out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are. I don't remember specifically 4 other than some of the maps. Like seeing some of these maps again, I was like, oh yeah, I remember Canada or whatever. Like, I don't know. The airport. Like there's a bunch of them I remember.
Yeah, I barely played these ones. I was definitely more of a Tony Hawk 1 person.
Yeah, and 2? Were you into 2?
I didn't have 2, but again, it was more just like out of friends, I would see it here and there.
Yep.
But like 1 is like I actually had nostalgia, I like knew those stages and stuff, yada yada yada.
Yeah. Superman, all of that. I get it.
Of course, yep, absolutely. And then that just reminds me when I was at When We Were Young music festival last year, and Goldfinger was there, and they played Superman, and Tony Hawk came out and sang it with them, and it was
great.
like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
This is so awesome.
Yep.
Anyways, yeah, so July 11th, I'm hoping that I will get to play that at Summer Game Fest this year. That's my hope.
Yeah, it would be around that time, so I would be a little surprised.
That would be a month ahead, so this should be doing like press stuff at that point.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I'm looking forward to it. That's a fun summertime game. All right, and last little news story here is that the Acclaim name is coming back.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Okay. So this is definitely kind of like before my time. So, but the weird thing is one of the advisors on the board of the new Acclaim is wrestler Jeff Jarrett.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Two things that were popular at the same time, I guess, makes sense. Sure.
From the other people I've heard reporting on this, it sounds like they're just going to use the name, or what is the assumption? They're going to slap the name on some stuff and probably scam you into doing some things. But their plan is, quote, support indie developers and reignite classic franchises. out of like the podcasts and journalists I've been listening to, no one can kind of figure out which IP they even own anymore. So
Yeah,
they're
because
not
they
sure
just published a bunch
which
of shit. So
and yeah, they published stuff and it was a lot of licensed stuff at the time, so they didn't own like anything.
yeah.
Um, the other quote here is I'll just read the paragraph. Acclaim was perhaps best known for its licensed games, and one of the key aims of this new company is to, quote, resurrect and revitalize its beloved portfolio of classic IP enjoyed for years by millions of players. So, yeah, it's not clear what IP they still own.
Right. I was gonna
Um,
say they don't
so a
say
lot of
which
people are
ones, huh?
thinking like, yeah, a lot of people are thinking they're just going to kind of slap this Acclaim name on, and then hopefully that's enough to get someone's interested. But I'm having a hard time believing that kind of anyone is going to look at a first off, look at a boxed copy of a game, but second off, see the Acclaim name and go, "Oh man, I loved those games. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
I'll like this one." Because I think there's maybe only like 3 developers in the world where you could sight unseen go, "Wait, they developed this? I don't know what it is, but I'm buying it." And those would be like Blizzard maybe,
At
Nintendo.
this point, I don't even know Blizzard, but yeah, there's definitely a
I don't know,
point.
maybe Kojima Productions. Like, do you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
maybe. Yep, for sure. For me, Capcom. I'll play a Capcom game almost
No, and
anytime.
like no, for us, of course. Like I see
Yeah.
Supergiant, I don't care. I'm playing that game. But like I'm
Yeah.
talking like a more like normal gamer who still goes to like GameStop to like
And
discover
asks
a new game.
what's
You know what I mean?
hot
Like
these days or something.
yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
got you.
Like I can't imagine like this person has to exist, but
Of
this is
course.
for the person walking into the GameStop and being like, "Hey, has Blizzard put anything out lately? Because I really like World of Warcraft and Diablo's great." And like not actually knowing that if they have a new game or not, like that, who is this person?
Oh,
And then
weird.
one step further removed, who's this person for Acclaim?
Yeah. That's the question,
So
honestly.
that's kind of my question is whenever they revitalize these old names, like I think of Intellivision again and stuff like that. It's like, is
Yeah.
anyone seriously sitting around saying like, man, I just have so much nostalgia for that. I just know if they came back, they would do right because they did right back then. Like that's such a weird concept to me.
Yeah, I mean, Atari was kind of this way also in like the PS2, GameCube. Like, you remember the Atari collections that they would put out at Namco? Like, a bunch of them tried to do this, but at least those were collections of their games. Like, who knows what the hell they're going to do? It's probably going to be like a crypto coin or something these days.
Exactly. Yeah, I have to assume it's going to be some kind of like scam,
Yeah.
and but that's where I'm like, this doesn't even seem like a good scam because
Yeah.
nobody's like chomping at the bit for something by Acclaim.
I can't even tell you what they've developed. I can tell you a bunch of things that they've published because they were on everything from the SNES days, basically, like every wrestling game ever. Like, they've done a bunch of publishing, but I don't know what they've made. I have no idea.
Yeah, yeah, weird,
Super
weird.
weird.
All right, that's it for news. Let's do some questions. Topdownperspective@gmail.com is the email address, at TDP Podcast on Blue Sky, the Discord channel, or John's PO Box are great ways to send questions in. And you could sound like this first one here from Dead, who wrote, "Today I bought both Monster Hunter Wilds, $100, and a PSVR 2, $200, and currently dreading living up to the enjoyment expectations I set for myself."
Okay.
The concept of enjoyment expectations is funny to me. Anyway, before making games or console purchases, do you try to compare your potential experience to the average person or average enjoyer of the content? Do you set expectations for how you will enjoy or how you aspire to enjoy the content? How do you handle meeting, exceeding, or failing to meet those expectations? This seems like a performance review about my enjoyment of like a video game.
Oh.
Um, I also there's something very like clinical about like I need to quantify enjoyment
mm.
and compare it to average enjoyment, and I will find the difference between these two numbers to determine there's a mathematical formula here um that is bizarre but funny to me.
You know what's interesting is I don't necessarily understand like this side that like he's coming from of like having expectations or whatever, but I will say on my side, because we do this podcast where we talk about games and stuff every week, I don't listen to anything game related at all. I won't listen to other people's opinions at all about anything, because I think depending on how much I hear something, it might taint what I feel about something at the time. So I try to enjoy everything as like by myself in a bubble as I can, so that we can talk about it here and kind of like have a conversation about it. So
Okay,
it's a
okay.
weird
And
opposite problem.
whereas I'm the opposite of you, where I'm absorbing all of this all the time, and I
Mm,
kind of like building. How does my opinion compare and contrast and stuff, and kind of that I like doing that. Um, I don't think when I am getting a game, and I'm definitely not comparing my potential enjoyment to the average consumer's potential enjoyment. This is such a weird concept. It's like potential energy.
I agree,
um,
because you and I aren't average consumers of video games. We're in a completely different thing too.
that's the other thing is like it is very different when I'm playing a game. It's also very different when I am, and I guess I'll use the word obtaining a game, because a
Mm,
lot of these games get sent to me now. So the if I was kind of putting it in the terminology of this question, it's like the amount I need to kind of enjoy it to like make my money back is much lower than the average person's, right? These days.
sure.
Um, but even said, like when I was buying a lot more of them, there was still always like worst case scenario, I'll have a story for the podcast. Like
Sure.
I'll be able to kind of, quote unquote turn it into content, which I've
Sure.
never really thought about it that way, but there,
It's
it
true.
is something like I enjoy talking about games on the podcast, obviously, so I will get something like that out of it,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. But when I'm just thinking about like if I'm buying myself a game, it's kind of divorced from any kind of other thing. I'm not comparing it to the average person. I don't know why you would really do that. Um, there might be a scenario around I'm hearing a lot of hype for a game, and that might influence me checking it out.
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess that would be the closest to
That makes
comparing it to
sense.
someone else. And then let's see, do I set expectations for my enjoyment? I th- I want to say by default you're going to have your a set of expectations, like no matter what.
By
That's
default, I
just
want to
how.
enjoy everything I play, because why wouldn't I?
Right. And if you're picking up a game, if you're going to watch a movie, if you're going to put on a TV show, you're probably doing that because something interests you, someone
Yeah.
recommended it to you. So there is a built-in level of expectations or whatever.
Yeah.
And that
Right.
could even be something like apparently this is the worst game of all time. I need to check it out,
Yep.
I did that with Deadly Premonition.
Done that a few
I
times.
needed to
Yep.
know.
Sure.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so is that too. So I don't. And then I'm thinking about it on the opposite side. Sometimes it is fun to just like go into something without knowing, and sometimes people will definitely tell you like, "Hey, you should watch this movie. Try not to know anything about it because
Yep.
that could be fun too." So
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do I handle meeting, exceeding, or failing to meet those expectations? Again, like worst case scenario, I'm gonna get something for the podcast. Um,
Yeah, the
and
answer is to make content around whatever, so that you always have something to fall back on, even if you hate it.
I don't know if I would recommend that because that's a grind for sure.
Sure.
Um, but again, if I'm speaking for myself personally, is I also do find value in playing something that would like fail to meet my expectations or disappoint me in some way. Like I go to bad movies
Yeah.
knowing they'll be bad. Like I know the reviews are bad. I know I would hate it because I do actually I do find value in watching bad movies, playing a bad game because I feel like it makes my perspective on that medium or whatever more whole. And if
Yeah.
I can, and then if I can figure out why I think a movie is bad, why I didn't like a movie, I have a better way of talking about why I do like a movie or why I think a movie is good. And so
Sure.
that's important to me. I understand for plenty of people it's like I don't have enough free time, so I just want to just tell me what the good thing is, and I think that's totally valuable too.
Totally. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I I think I kind of side with you more on that also, of just the experience thing. Like at this point I just kind of like playing games cuz there's this like history of like game library that's in my mind of games I've played since I was like 2 till now.
Yeah.
And like I guess I'll just keep adding like books to this mind library by playing the games and adding
Yeah,
to it.
exactly. And I
And
think
that's
a lot of
enough
people are
for
like
me.
yeah, and I think a lot of people are like that. Like I think about people who are reading books, and a lot of times people they're almost using it as like an escape. So they want something good, they want something maybe easy, they want to like turn off their brain or whatever.
Hmm.
And I think that's definitely valuable. And also with TV, I know a ton of people who are like, I watch reality TV because I don't need to think when I'm putting it on.
Right. Exactly.
Whereas I'm the kind of person where it's like if I'm watching something, I'm invested in it. Like I can't just like I don't really want to waste my time with something. I'm like I want to kind of absorb it and stuff. And so everyone's different.
For sure. Yep. Rasterman7 writes, is there any game where you lost all your progress but decided to beat it anyways out of spite? I don't think I've ever spite restarted a game. I probably have restarted a game because I liked it enough that I was like, you know what, I want to see this through, and then did it.
I'm trying to think of a scenario where I lost all my progress. I don't know if that. I know I think it was.
You had something semi recently with like your PlayStation account going from America to Canada or something, didn't you? Where you like lost a save or something. Why do I remember you
No,
losing
you're
something?
thinking of Lost Records where I had to like redeem those codes and stuff. Yeah. I didn't lose anything in that way.
Okay.
But I do remember an old. I think it was Final Fantasy 1 or 2 because I had the Game Boy Advance cart that had both of them on there. I
Uh
know I
huh.
lost that save and I just never went back to it. I think it would for me to like restart it. I there would have to be like not a ton of investment already have put into it.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and RPGs would be hard because if I put like a dozen, 2 dozen hours in there, it's like I can't do that again. Like I don't have time to do that. Um, I think the only time that I have like restarted is if it was like I never got back to it, so I restarted it and I put it on easy to get through it fast because I really did want to see where this went. But yeah, I don't think anything out of like spite
Out
really.
of spite, yeah. Definitely not out of spite for me either. I've done it like out of love of a game. It's like, oh man, I lost all my progress. That's all right. This game's awesome. I'll start it up again, see how far I get or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah. VGC Kenny writes, "What's a game or anything else that, upon reflection, was better than you gave it credit for at the time you played it, or watched it, or otherwise experienced it?" So something that you kind of came back to in some way, and you thought it was better than when you first experienced it.
Yeah, sure.
Gears of War 1 comes to mind for me. I bounced off that immediately,
Okay.
but then I played Gears of War 2 at launch, loved that, and so I went back and played through 1, and that was a lot better that time. Same with Mass Effect was like that for me too. I bounced off Mass Effect 1,
Mm,
but 2 came out, loved that, so I went back and I played through 1 as well.
sure. Yeah. Um, some of the DS Castlevanias I remember kind of writing off back then, and then trying them again later and being like, "This is actually pretty dope." Like they had some good ideas in here or whatever. So some of those. Um, there must, there's surely like, oh, probably Majora's Mask. I remember when that came out, and just not understanding it until I came back to it later. I'm like, oh, they're doing like some actual weird artsy shit with this, and it's kind of dope.
Majora's Mask was another good one for me as well. Yeah, because I had played that a bit on the N64 and kind of didn't get it. It might have also just been my age at the time.
Yeah, and coming off
But then they
Ocarina, you
did.
kind of had like an expectation, maybe.
It's also like harder than Ocarina because
Yes.
of all the time limits and stuff. So and then when they did the 3D remake on DS or I guess 3DS, I played through it all entirely for the first time and came around on it for sure.
Sure, yeah. Next question from Jacko304. What Monster Hunter monster would you want to keep a miniature and more importantly friendly version of as a pet, and why? For me, I'd love to keep a Nargacuga because I feel like they would just be bigger cats with wings, and that's adorable. I think those exist. They're basically just flying squirrels. You could get a flying squirrel. I guess it doesn't have like a cat
I don't know if you
face.
should do that, but I guess you theoretically could put a flying squirrel
Or
into your home.
I think you can legally buy sugar gliders, which are basically a flying squirrel, except they're a marsupial. There's a distinction. with customs. I'll let you know.
I've never
So
heard of a sugar glider, so I have no idea. But
if you
I'll
ever
take
want
your
to
word for it.
import specifically into Canada, you probably want a sugar glider because flying squirrels is a no go. Just I'll give you that pro tip.
Okay, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
some insider knowledge right there. I'm not familiar enough with the Monster Hunter monsters. I know Sacred. Would that be a good one?
I mean, that's basically a dog, so yeah. That's
Okay.
great. Arzuros, it's just a bear with like honey badger hands basically, but he likes to eat honey and like will sit down and eat honey or whatever. He's cute. He's great. And I love bears. Bears are great.
Okay. All right. Phantom Aegis, ahoy TDP crew. Recently, I've thought about 3 of my favorite foods. Those
Okay.
being pizza, tacos, and sushi.
Okay.
Overall, pizza might be number 1, but the best ever pizza I had will usually be my last option over the best tacos or best sushi I ever had.
Okay.
My
Sure.
question to you is, think of your 2 to 3 favorite foods. Is your overall favorites oh, hang on. Some typos here. Okay. Your overall favorites and compare which of the best iteration you've had of those said foods. Would your answers change if you always had the best iteration of one of your favorite foods over your overall choice? If not, explain your reasoning.
Okay. So I think I'm in I if I understand this correctly, I will almost always have a burger because I love burgers, but I would rather have the best sushi one time over the best burger, like in that same meal.
Yeah, so it's coming down to like, so you're picking 2 to 3 favorite foods, and then you're asking yourself which of them has like a higher ceiling.
Yes.
Because these are your favorite 3, we already know that the floor for them is high. Like,
Yeah.
it is higher than the rest.
Yep.
But you're asking yourself, on average, where do they land? And then, are the ceilings higher and different? And I think I'm kind of with you because if I'm thinking of my favorite foods, it's sandwiches.
Sure. Yep.
It's probably sushi,
Yep.
and then it might be burritos.
Okay.
Those might be my 3.
Okay.
Um, and I do think sushi, the ceiling is higher than the other 2. If I had to pick my favorite, it's probably sandwiches.
Okay.
But I do think it has the lowest. S- Uh, I think it has a lower ceiling than sushi. I'm not
Right.
sure how I would compare it to burritos.
Burritos, I would
I might put it.
assume, is the lowest, like just in general. Just they're a little simpler sandwich, essentially, right?
I kind of feel like they're pretty similar,
They,
honestly.
they are very similar, but I think they're a
Burrito's
simpler
kind
one.
of a sandwich, just wrapped up in a tortilla.
A burrito is a 100% sandwich. You can't like this. Yes, it
Y-
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Sushi, there's just something like kind of fancy about it, and like you almost like if you see good sushi, it's like I should respect this.
Yeah, I've had great sushi and I've had horrible sushi, and I will say there is a major difference between those two things in the way that I've had a bad burger and a great burger. And there is a difference, but I wouldn't say there's as much of a gap there.
Okay. And I think that's similar to when they're talking pizza because I am
Yeah,
someone who thinks that there's no such thing as bad pizza.
sure.
Um, but I just don't think I've had like amazing pizza that was like that far away from
Yes,
the worst pizza I've had.
right. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final question. Suku writes, favorite video games starring women over 40. Bayonetta, right? How old is she? Hold on, let me Google.
Oh, she's probably like 300 or something, right?
I mean, yeah, when you put it that way, yeah, she's 500 plus.
So the
We're
one that
good.
popped into my head was Returnal. I don't know if she's over 40, but I remember she was an older woman, right?
Oh, I put in a stupid question. I'm too embarrassed to even say what I typed here. I put how old is Returnal, and I just got the release date of when Returnal came out.
Well, I typed in Returnal protagonist, and the first link here is a 3-year-old um, Reddit post from R Gamers that says Returnal has the ugliest main character of any game.
Oh, good. Yeah, great.
Yep. So that's a good one. Okay, here's
Quality.
the Returnal wiki.
What's her name?
Celine, Celine Vassos. Trying to see if it has her age. Honestly, now that I'm seeing her, she doesn't seem as old as I recall. But this could be like an old picture of
Her
her.
birthday is March 25th. I can tell you that. There's no year here though.
Great.
Yeah, so that helps. So there's a thing that was said in a spoilery way that I won't repeat, but she's probably roughly about 120 years old. Maybe.
It's Bayonetta.
No, this Celine person. Just based on like
Okay,
gameplay stuff.
I'm seeing an AI answer. It says the game doesn't specify her exact age. She is portrayed as being in her 50s.
Yeah, so that works, sure.
Okay, I'm just having a hard time thinking of who else would qualify.
Yeah.
I do a Google this.
Like what if I typed in old women in video games?
Old women in my area.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, see, now they're giving me like the age of the games, and that have a female protagonist.
Yeah. Yeah.
This one, how old do you think Samus is?
She's probably
She's always kind of other than other M. She's always kind of portrayed as like the same age. So does she just like back to back? Like she gets off one planet and she immediately finds another hell planet?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I would say probably like mid to late 20s would be my guess.
Yeah, probably. And I think like so did you find Bayonetta's age?
It just said 500 plus, so
Okay. That's the other thing is I think that we need to kind of like
yeah.
kind of shift the question a little bit because she's clearly not portrayed as like an older woman. So you need to kind of find someone who's like actually like an older woman as opposed to just like, well, she looks like a child, but she's technically 200 and blah 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 years old.
What about the Uncharted ladies in that side game?
Okay, yeah, I don't think they're over 40.
Okay.
But they're definitely, but they're probably in their like 30s, I would guess. Someone else who just because I'm just looking at a list of games with female protagonists.
Okay.
Again, I don't think she's over 40, but Jessie Faden from Control.
Okay. She might be close. Okay.
Jessie Faden, age, she's 34, so yeah,
okay.
she's getting there.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, you know what? How about Saga Anderson from Alan Wake 2?
Okay. Yeah.
What's her age?
35 is what I have.
Okay.
Man. That feeling when every protagonist in every video game you play is younger than you. God damn it.
Well, maybe you, but so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, much like movies, not a popular demographic for protagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these people have to be in their like 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, all the major female protagonists you can probably think of are probably no older than 25, I would assume.
Oh, I mean, we said a couple in their 30s, but I'm having a really hard time finding anyone in their 40s.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a good question, though.
All right.
Cool.
Good question for sure. We need more older women protagonists.
Agreed.
That's going to do it for questions. topdownperspective@gmail.com, at TDP Podcast on Blue Sky, the Discord channel, and John's P.O. Box are all great ways if you want to send in questions for a future episode.
Yep.
Paul, what's your game of the week?
Monster Hunter Wilds for the rest of the year, baby. Let's go.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe.
Mine is Split Fiction.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. We'll be back next week. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you then. Bye.
Bye.